Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Think Business. Looking forward to talking with Ahmed Elsamadisi. Ahmed, it's great to connect with you. You are the founder and CEO of Narrator, which is the first customer data analytics platform built for product teams that uses all of the data directly from data warehouses. So for people who are kind of new to what that even means, kind of just give the Think community a little bit of layman terms of just what that means to them today in their company.
Yeah, you're trying to operate your business, you're trying to make decisions, and you need access to data. The way you do it today is that you either use a product analytics tool like an Amplitude, which has a subset of your data, or you invest in a huge data team that has access to your warehouse with all your data, and you spend about 2 weeks on average per question you have. Every
Yeah.
company has experienced this thing. Narrator sits right in between, where it sits on top of your warehouse, gives you access to all that information structured by your data team very quickly, but allows you to ask and answer questions just like a tool. So you can do that in 10 minutes. If you've ever
Yeah.
seen any of my talks or podcasts, I say, I do the ask me anything. I show you a very complicated company. I say, ask me any question and let's see if I can answer whatever question that you can come up with in under 10 minutes, because that's what we want everyone to be able to do.
Yeah. I'm kind of the same way as a business coach. I really specialize and love real-time coaching, right? Like throw me an idea and we can dissect it really quickly. I actually do, once I do a session with a client, we do about 15 minutes a week or 30 minutes every other week because we can move so quickly because of that similar model. But let me ask you a question. One of a quote that I love, Amit, is if you don't bring data to the table, I'll use my own opinion. And so you're
Yeah.
talking about, really utilizing data in a strong way. Talk a little bit about the importance of using data and when to tap into your instincts.
Yeah, so I think it's a little bit more nuanced than that. I think that depending on how data is communicated to you, you will always tell yourself a story. So one of the things that we stand really hard against is dashboarding. Like you get a bunch of numbers and then you're like, here's a bunch of numbers and how you're doing, and you have to come up with a story. The reason why the company's called Narrator is because we want to tell you the story that data is telling you from the perspective of the analysis. So you're getting information and then data is supporting evidence. So that's kind of the key difference here. Companies, I think that if you're small, I actually think using data when you're small is actually not the best thing. At a small stage company, if you're like below series A, take your bottom line metrics, like your total number of users or total net revenue, and just guess and trust your intuition for the rest.
Yeah.
Using data correctly is actually really hard and very expensive. And it's better to operate with knowing uncertainty than trying to operate with the illusion of certainty. And I think sometimes bad data gives you the illusion of certainty, and you want to avoid that.
Yeah.
So that's it. And if you're larger, invest in data, but invest in your ability to constantly ask questions. I think we get into this habit. I've seen this in so many companies where the companies have been trained to actually not ask questions. Like think about the last time you asked a question, how long it takes you to get an answer, why it's so long process. When you get the answer, you ask a follow-up, and then it goes into like an ad hoc request bucket that never gets delivered. That is the culture you want to shift. You want to shift it where people are feeling like data is actually something you're communicating with and something that you're working with. I think that's the thing that you want to be experiencing, is this collaboration with data.
Yeah.
Unless like data has an opinion. Data usually can guide you, but it's really a collaboration between you and the data in how you're asking and answering those questions.
Yeah. I love the story about Sam Walton that he would take data from the boardroom and go to the local diner and have apple pie and coffee with his clients, and then come back to the boardroom to determine what data was the right data for them to make decisions by. And so, what's your philosophy on, the where to kind of put your attention on which pieces of data?
Yeah, so I think I'm really anti like black box analytics and just like random spread of like just information. I think that's
Yeah.
noise. So I think the way that you get the signal out of the noise is by focusing on what's prominent right now. So usually like the way that we help with our customers, so we say, what is your current KPI that you're trying to move? Now let's see that over time. What are your current hypotheses that you can act upon? Let's see those hypotheses. Let's have a system like Narrator evaluate that hypothesis for you in a rigorous explanatory way where you can read and understand it. Once you read the analysis that's in English with the plots of supporting evidence, are you convinced? If yes, act and monitor that change and see if the results are behaving the way you expect them. So
Yeah.
it's that like little like about giving you the right information at the right time is the key. And you want to make it more of, again, like an interaction that happens right away versus something you wait for months. The other thing
Yeah.
we tell our customers, we have a feature called Customer Journey, where when you land on the page, it gives you 10 sample customers, and then you can just click on them and see everything that customer has done. And we say like the biggest thing that you need to do with data is not just look at the total numbers, but also look at just example customers so you can build your intuition. Because the
Yeah.
way you're going to ask the best question is by seeing a bunch of examples and saying, I wonder how often that happens. And
Yeah.
then that gets the question going.
Yeah, I love that. Good. I was hoping you would say something like that, right? It's like building your intuition with the data. I love that. Let's talk a little bit about WeWork. You were the senior data engineer, and you started the data team at WeWork. I have always followed WeWork. I just watched We Crashed on Apple TV. I've watched the documentary of Adam and the team. What was it like working at WeWork, in 2015?
Yeah, so I joined WeWork in 2012 initially. So it's been like, it was really early on. We had 6 buildings then. Adam and Miguel shared a 2-person office. Adam interviewed me and was like, we're going to change the world. We're going to be $1 trillion company. And I'm like, dude, you're like opened your 4th office. Calm down. And I think it was lovely. I think WeWork tells you a bunch of interesting things. People don't understand the things that WeWork did and why it moved so fast. Like WeWork was opening a whole building in a month. You're talking about a scale of like, we had just in data, 85 unique systems that we had to depend on to make a decision. From out of 85 systems, there was about 6,000 raw tables of data that we had to combine to like really provide the analytics. So the system was actually pretty complex to open buildings that fast, from like how many buildings were open to international worlds. And I think that's a key thing that people often forget. And yeah, I personally, like, Adam is an insane leader. He is like a crazy person, but I love that guy. Like, I really do think I believed in his mission. I like still believe in like that he was trying to do the good thing and got like lost, but he was always like a really, really good person to me, and always good person to people around. I think WeWork did end up growing way faster. Like, so I was running the data team, and we were hiring so quickly. Like the team became 45 people, and then I was like, okay, no, like I don't want to become a people manager of like 45 people. Like I want to actually be solving problems. And there was a lot of interesting problems. I think there's a lot of really fascinating problems when you're thinking about why do you choose a location, and what you do with your customer, and how do you understand what makes an office sellable, and what that turn is right, and when do you like price elasticity, all these questions that people have. I think you forget that when you are a bigger company, you can actually ask that. When you're a smaller company, you often lose the aspect to ask, like, does my customer care if I charge an extra $10 or $20? Like, will that affect our churn rate at all?
Yeah.
And if I charge $10 for 100,000 members, that's $1 million extra in revenue. Like, is that what we want to do? Like, stuff like that is very critical in your decision making and how we kind of control those things.
Yeah, I love it. I love the way you think, and kind of how you talk about, bringing the art and the science of data together, right? Like data is important, but it's also important for growing your intuition. And as a leader, you've got to have both the art, the science, the data, and know, like you said, the right time to use and pay attention to certain data. Let's do a quick speed round, Ahmed. What's one book that's had the biggest impact on you?
Never Split the Difference.
That's a great one. Yeah. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
No one thing ever matters.
Yeah, that's
like no one thing was going to break your business. No one thing is going to make your business. No one thing specifically ever changes the world. It's always a series. And people love telling their one moment where they had the idea. It's like, no, it's like 1 billion of, you had 1 million of those moments. And the ones that worked is due to a lot of work and effort.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Finish this sentence. One piece of data that everybody ignores that they really need to pay more attention to is?
I would say time. I would say that people love looking at data in terms of aggregations and snapshots, and they forget that every customer is changing and every behavior is changing and everything is actually moving in time. And I think that's like so critical. People love like, this referral code worked. It's like, no, this referral code has to be consistently working over time, because data doesn't work without time. And 90% of analysis that I've seen come out of other companies, like they just forget time as a factor. Like they just love looking at total aggregations.
I love it. before we close, what's and I know you're in kind of the throes of your business, but what's the next chapter for you? I mean, you're doing Narrator now, you're doing cool things now. What's the next chapter for you?
Well, Narrator is like just starting. We standardize all of data. So one of the innovations of Narrator is that we have a standard like structure that we can use for every company, which means we're actually going to be opening probably mid next year what's called the Narrator store, where you can literally buy and sell analyses with one click. So anyone can build an analysis and open source it just like software, and anyone can search for any analysis by any expert, whether it's McKinsey or Airbnb, and just say run on my data and answer a couple questions to map your data to it, and it works seamlessly. And we already offer that for our customers with the analysis library that we built internally, but now we're going to open it to anyone to build, to kind of upload to the library, and anyone to download anyone's work. And it's going to be a pretty cool experience where for the first time ever, data is going to be shared. Like not the actual data, but the actual thinking behind the data is going to be shared across companies.
I love it. I mean, tell everybody who your ideal clients are and how they can connect with you.
Yeah, we work with if you're kind of Series B or later, you have a small, like 3 to 10 person data team, and you're really strapped for cash. You're trying to save money on either your warehouse cost or your team has a huge backlog. Like we're perfect. We're literally a speed multiplier by 50 to 100. So it's like a huge difference. And that's when you should come. It doesn't matter what sector you are. It matters about the problem you have, which is that you want to cut your costs and deliver more value from data in a better way. And that's what we do.
And how can they connect with you?
Yeah, so I think the best way for me right now is actually LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, you can see me, you can message me, or Twitter, AE for AI. Both those options are great, and we'll be continuing sharing more content and more information about data.
I love it. I love it. I appreciate your time. I love what you've done. I love what you're doing. Think community, when it comes to data and your intuition and understanding kind of patterns, how people think, it's really critical that you can get as deep as you possibly can. I love companies like yours, I mean, because I don't think people pay attention to what you're doing enough to pay attention to the tea leaves and the data, and then forecast that stuff out and what it means, and then reverse engineer some of the changes that companies need to be made today. I see it as a business coach all the time, where there's just not enough of that going on. So any tools, I work with successful people who get stuck. I love interviewing people on the show who can provide tools to get people unstuck and thinking a little bit differently and raising awareness to set a better plan in motion. So I appreciate you coming on. Think community. If we can help you, please reach out to him on LinkedIn. This was great. I appreciate your time, and thanks for coming on the show. Thanks so much.
Thank you for letting me be here. Awesome.